So, in this video, I want to talk about first of all, about tattoos and this kind of thing. And sorry. Okay, so the thing is here, when, for example, when I get tattoos, when I get different colors, I get, example, black and red. I have used turquoise blue, magenta, one version of magenta, green. The so so I can say already from the start, like, that colors that works on me is like green, red, turquoise blue, because it's green and blue and white, but some of them is more green, and orange works okay. Obviously, what kind of different orange you use, and obviously what kind of different skin undertone you have, can also it will in fact what kind of color will look the best when the tattoo have healed on the skin, and this kind of thing. For example, that thing I don't know before was that so example, like purple for me. So when, because I probably, if it's a very good app on the mobile phone called Color Swap, and you can put your mobile phone, the camera, to your hand, and they will scan your undertone. So they will see if your undertone are red, yellow. So you have to be outside in the day to try the app, and then you can see if, for example, wow, lägg av. Sluta, sorry for that. This is my cat. Yeah. So the undertone is the most important thing to know. For example, if you, example, like me, I'm a tattoo collector. That means I collect tattoos. I go to a tattoo artist, I get tattoos, and this kind of thing. So it's a very good thing to know, is to know your, if you have, example, lighter or darker skin, the most important thing to know is your undertone, because if you know your undertone, then you know what color you can have for your tattoo, what color you should not put into, because some color is not as well working on your skin when the tattoo have healed on the skin. So for example, if you have an orange undertone, purple will not heal as well as some other colors. So there is a reason why, for example, many times yellow is a color that many times not recommended for people with darker skin tones. Obviously, darker skin tones means a huge variety of tones. Do not mean just one. They mean actually 12 different tones on your skin. So, for example, and that is just the color. It's not the style of the tattoo. It's not how the line works, but it's just the color. So, if, for example, first example, you do the tattoo, you do the sketch, you make, example, a classical, you make a tiger, like a realistic tiger. But if you put, example, yellow in tiger, that is, if you do a color tiger, it's most common to you have color yellow. When you put that yellow tiger on a person with a darker skin tone, most of the time that the tiger will look more brownish than yellow if you put that on a person with lighter skin tone. So there is a reason why it's very, and you can have orange instead, obviously. So you can, every skin tone can have every tattoo. It's just that you have to know what undertone you have, that will help you give you a much better tattoo if you know that. So for example, so if I, for example, maybe that will so example, if you see, oh, it's very hard to see now. Okay, it's very bad. Okay, you see, if you see, for example, on this, like, it's really hard to see. Anyways, okay, this is magenta, purple, green, purple. But yeah, the point here is that just because one color do not work, do not mean that other color will have the same fate on your skin. So it's very, I think, it's very, how can I say that? It's very, sometimes, for example, when some, if you, for example, if you have, if you know yourself, what, if you know how skin tone and undertones works, uh, then you don't need really, you don't need to find any specialist tattoo artist for a special skin tone. You just need to know yourself what color will work, what color will not work, what color should I ignore, what color should I more focusing on the skin. So for example, the color I know for now, the color I will ignore is purple, because purple do not work. It's waste of money for me. So the same for yellow. It's waste of money. It's not point to use yellow on my skin, because it's not work together. It's always be turned to brown. The purple turn me very fast faded. So it's much better to use other colors that will work on the skin. And the interesting thing here, for example, many of the colors that I have on my skin beside red is color that is mixed with many colors together to put from this color. For example, turquoise blue. For turquoise blue is green, blue, and white, and yellow. Sorry, in yellow. But because there's so many colors combined, that means they are not separated from each other. So, for example, if you only take yellow, yellow will be neutralized. But if you take yellow and green, and obviously when they make the ink, obviously how much yellow or how much green they will have to mix it to be lime green, what kind of tone of lime green. So it's always a number how much green. For example, right now, if you say you have 6 drops of green of and you have 3 drops of yellow, for example. So because there's so much more drops of green in the ink bottle, that is lime green for Ink Eternal, that is just called lime green. This means the reason why it works so very good, it works well on dark skin tones, because it's much more darker green and little yellow in it, comparable maybe to jungle green that is more yellow, more drops of yellow, or graffiti green that is maybe more yellow, and so on. So it's obviously how much drops you have of ink from each ink bottle will make it more likely to work or not on the skin. How much contrast. For example, if you say, for example, you have the colors and the colors, and for example you have purple. Obviously, if it's different version of purple, and it's very, if you have the right background to the purple, some that make it put forward the purple. But for example, if you have red violet, that is violet is like red and blue, but a little bit more red than blue, and purple is more blue than red. And because red is more recommended on dark skins, that means that red violet is more likelier to work on darker skin tones than just purple is, because red is much more red is more red is the only color that is more likely to you be allergic to than other colors. I don't really know the reason why, but there's many people say that red is more likely you get more to that color from this, not because not because the color, but it's how the color is made. So there's a reason. For example, this tattoo is like 10 years old and still looks well with red and black. So red is a color that stays very long. It's very strong on the skin. And there is a reason why, for example, when you have red and other colors, because red is a very strong color. So you have to know, for example, when you mix color, for example, red, you make a red violet, you have to know exactly how much red you have in it, so don't turn it totally to red. Instead, for just you have the red violet, ink. So it's obviously how you build up. So for example, violin is like more red than blue, but not so much. But so you have to maybe have, I don't know 100%, probably I say it totally wrong now. But for example, that's like, we say you have 10 drops of blue uh, in the box, and but you have 12, 5, 10 drops of blue, and you have maybe 3 drops of red. Maybe still the red is stronger than 10 drops of blue because red is so strong color. So there's a reason why when the tattoo heals on the skin with that color, it's more likely the red will take over the charge of this the undertone. So the blue will be there, but the blue will not be as dominant as it will be in the purple. Obviously, what kind of undertone is also gonna play a big factor to the whole thing. So everything is totally, is very interesting. For example, that you have to, I think is like, I think there's so many ways you can find out what your skin tones are, your undertone are to your skin, in books, on the internet, and all that will help you in some sense to know what color you want for your tattoo, what color will be looks the most brightest and looks the most best on your skin. And I think more tattoo artists should have that, like have some kind of thing for the show for the customers, so they can know beforehand, before they even start, even before they do the tattoo, they have some kind of to explain for them, because is you have to be like you have to understand, like a tattoo is something very expensive, like it's something like a very expensive thing. That's because the time, the more colors you have, because the more time will take, because you have to change the needle, you have to change different thing. So you have to really understand. I think it saves much time if you know yourself what undertone you have to your skin, because then you know what will neutralize, what will look good on the skin, and this kind of thing, and that will help you in the future for the tattoo, how well they will heal, for example, how will my tattoo, for example, look from 6 months from now comparable to 60 years from now. And that's always is most important thing. I think 60 years from now is more important. You want your tattoo to look amazing 60 years from now, when you are maybe very old, you're a much older person, and obviously it's so different how, for example, in time, how tattoo inks are made comparable to now and what comparable to a long time ago, and in the middle. And so, but it's still okay. That is just the way of the ink, and the other thing that is not related to just because the it's like this. You have like a very popular industry. When something gets very popular as tattoos, some popularity. I'm very glad that tattoos are very popular, because it's nice that people that are artists, in a different way, from tattoo artists to graffiti artists to painters, from different style of art, different way how you make art of different objects and this kind of thing. The only thing I think is personally a bit of a problem is when you make something mainstream. Popularity is I'm totally cool with, but when you make something very mainstream and you make it almost like a different thing from the start. For example, if you look at art magazine like Art, and you see beautiful paintings, wood sculpturing, modern art, in museum and this kind of thing, but you don't see, obviously you cannot see tattoos in museum, because tattoos is on human beings, and you cannot put human beings in a museum because they are living things. So there is a reason you can have paintings, you can have with graffiti or finger paint or other ways, something is on objects, something is not living. The thing I think the problem with is that, for example, when you make something in a special way, for example, you say you have, you make almost like tattoos like oh god, it's hard to say. But for example, if focusing like for example on like example Ink Mag, you have art, and I love tattoos as art. I like to see different documentaries about tattoos, on pictures, on other people. On the reason why I have tattoos because I love art and I love cultures. There is a reason I have a different version of culture in my body with tattoos. Um, so for me, I want tattoos to be look at art. I don't want tattoos to be look at something like how you are your social dignity. I don't think like tattoos should identify you as a person. I think that for me I don't want that. I want tattoos to be just for me it's beautiful art on my body. I don't want like for example I don't see a person with example so have lots of tattoos to be any different from a person without tattoos. But if you have like a very special industry with like pop culture, example like music, almost like if for example you say rap music, right? Rap music, and you have like independent artists, and you have artists that is under a multi company, and the multi company they make for example when you make for example music video they put different thing in the music video. For example, they put in guns, luxury cars, other things I cannot name in a video because this video is for YouTube. And the same with tattoo industry, with the pop culture, not the industry, not the tattoo artists, they are a different thing. But if you put it the pop culture, and you put lots of girls, other things in the tattoo magazine, people buy the magazine because there's girls in them. But if you take away the girls and you're just focusing on the art, just the painting, the tattoos, the art, how many will the magazine sell compared to if you have maybe you have 100 magazine, 100 we say at the 100 each. One of the 100 magazine is just art, tattoo art, nothing more, just art. And explain displaying the interview with the tattoo artist and this kind of thing just in the magazine is art. Then you have the other 100 magazine is like with tattoos and girls and luxury cars and interviews with rock star and modern hip hop artists. The tattoo they are gonna sell much more because they have that what younger people want to see. They have that that I think that is very sad that they have to be this way. That tattoos is almost like when you long time ago when you look in tattoo magazine, like there's always a picture front line on the magazine with a girl. So you almost see tattoo magazines in comparison with like a Playboy magazine. But that is sad that they have to be that way. That we have to have that stereotype way how we see magazine. That we cannot just see a tattoo magazine as art. They have to have this kind of Playboy-ish thing to it, and I think that is wrong because there is a reason why lots of the tattoo magazine do not sell anymore. For example, in normal food shops, like when you buy a magazine, it's not because magazine is not it's not because you have internet today but it's because of the sexualization of women in magazines like this kind of magazine. There is a reason why so many people do not like to see this kind of magazine. There is a reason. For example, in Sweden, when you go to a place to buy a magazine, the magazine that is a bit, you know what I mean, bit too much. they are hidden behind iron fence and like iron thing behind the magazine, so you don't see the magazine. You just see the text of the magazine, but you don't see the whole picture of the magazine, the front of the magazine. And that is just because this. And I think that is very bad because I think I don't want. For me personally, I don't think tattoo should be be connected with these kind of things because tattoos is art and everybody can have tattoos. Not you don't need to be a supermodel or be a UFC fighter to have tattoos. Tattoos is for everybody, for every kind of human being. So when they have that like stereotypical way, they show female in this kind of way, and they show people with big muscle like bikers, UFC fighters. It's almost like you give a tattoo a very single way. You don't really give it like diversity. And there, so for me, I am a person that have looked at this kind of magazine before, but nowadays I'm gonna think about it now. It's not a good thing. I don't. I because we know how good the tattoo artists are, but we don't. Oh God, we're focusing more on the thing that has nothing to do with tattoos. We're focusing more on, when we look at the magazine. More, we look more at the like the interview with the rapper, or look at more at especially we look more at a picture of the girls in the magazine. But we forget that this magazine is a tattoo magazine. It's not a Playboy magazine, but because it's the girls in the front of the magazine, we we forget the point with the art. And also the other thing I want to talk about is also diversity. But many times when you show a picture with the tattoo, you always show a picture most of the time with a person with light skin on the tattoo portfolio comparable to a person with dark skin or middle like brown or darker skin tones. And that I think also very strange that we don't show more diversity. For example, we have, for example, different culture. Lots of the time, many tattoos come from different culture. For example, the Polynesian island, the Maori, and then we have Japanese. We have Haida, the tribal. That is the old tribal. Then we have modern tribal. We have different style of tattooing, and I think the more diversity we have for picture of clients so get tattoos from different tattoo shops, the better thing will happen to it, the whole thing. I think because if we are if we are so still in that sense, I think for me personally, what I want to see more with tattoos is more diversity, more tattoo artists show more customers with different skin tones, and show healed work side by side by how the tattoo looks when they were done in the studio comparable to how the tattoo looks for 2 months later, like side by side, to show really people in some ways, and explain things because the more we explain art, the more we'll help other people that make art in this kind of way. Um, because and help, uh, for example, and there is a reason. It's not just so I think that is very good thing to will help this kind of thing. And I think if we're focusing more on the art and diversity with the art, then just show like a stone cutting stone society that we show like that we separated like because when you for example like art is almost like music, and music is very diverse. We don't have like for example, if for example listen to heavy metal for example, then you have for example Slipknot, and you have like Sepultura. They are sound extremely different how they sound. They have if you look for example from beginning of Slipknot's first album and Sepultura's first album, the last like the newest for example there's with the Max era with Sepultura all the way from the beginning to Roots, then you have Slipknot, and you have Slipknot all the way to the newest album, and comparable is very different. For example, how Sepultura sound when Max was in the band, comparable how Sepultura sounds today with Derek Green. Um, yeah, in comparison. Uh, so this is kind of what I mean with music. That music is even if they're same genre, both of them are metal music. They still sounds very different. How they play, what kind of instrument they put in, and you have, for example, you have bossa nova, or you have reggae music, or you have folk music from different countries, and all this kind of sound different. And I think is, for example, if you example heavy metal magazine like Metal Hammer is focusing on the point what this is about, metal music, and interview the artist. It's very good magazine, and you interview like popular magazine Corey Taylor, Burton C. Bell. You interview the famous artists from different metal band. But in Ink Mag, it's more like a very cheap version of Playboy, because you more focusing on the things that have nothing to do with the subject that the magazine is based on, that is tattoos. And that is the reason why I think, personally, I think I do not like Ink Mag, because they are so stereotypical. They are so extremely stereotypical. They show like, I don't know. It's like it's not just Ink Mag. It's just all of tattoo magazine we see have is almost nothing to do with art. It's almost like doing with showing more skin, more popular subject, talking about newest rap song for Eminem, like very extremely pop culture, extreme pop culture with the whole thing. And yeah, so I think for me, tattoos are an amazing thing. They symbolize a long history from our human journey with in history with tattoos. We have so many different style, and you have different culture. For example, if you look at like original Japanese style tattoos, and you look at, example, original Polynesian style tattoos, they are made in a different way. Like before the electronic machine, they make like they have different, like from fish. They use from like plants and wooden and so on. They build up in a special way. How they made it, and for example, in society, for example, in Polynesia and New Zealand, like the Polynesian island, Micronesia and New Zealand, and even in Australia, that the Aborigine is also belong to the Polynesian people. They also have a very tradition how they make like a symbol. Like they make, in New Zealand, they have a symbol of a turtle, spiritual animals, and then you have the North Coast, like in British Isles, in British Columbia, in Canada, with Haida and the Kalinget and other people that live there. You have like if you look like a symbol, they have like a very all the creatures have like a human combined with the animal touch to the art. If you look at like original like totem poles in the Haida culture or the Kalinget, like for example, you look at their armor and this kind of thing, that how they make like the box in wood. So all of this kind of thing, tattoos come from different things, from the spiritual to like for the pop culture, and build up different way how we see tattoos. I think tattoos is very diverse, not just because of different styles, but also different meanings with tattoos. And like for example, originally a Maori face paint tattoo originally was made as a symbol how many wars you have won in battle. So for each tattoo, the higher rank you are in the Maori society. So this, and for example, like in a marriage, when a woman married in Maori society, they tattoo her lip, and her lips was turned black, like black, and this kind of thing. And even in like in ancient China, for example, if somebody Chinese was a slave to the emperor or a governor, his head was his forehead was tattooed, because when so you cannot run away because everybody knows you was a slave because you have your forehead tattoos at that time period of history. So it's very cool to see how different tattoos are evolved nowadays. Like in ancient times, tattoos were put on slaves, on warriors, and for example, is also we have also for example different cultures, even all the way from like from Polynesia, New Zealand, all the way like to the Russian steppe in Russia. We have defined a Scythian woman that was frozen in the ground, so they have still find the skin, and the skin was tattooed with a symbol like fighting animals in a circle, life or death, on the tattoo on the ice maiden, on the queen, sorry, not the queen, but the Scythian warrior woman, and you can find that skin in the Hermitage Museum in Russia, and it was like from 800 BC, the Scythian, and all of the history. So it's very cool that so many people from around the world have tattoos, but they made the tattoos in a different way, like for different reasons and so on. And that I think is very very cool. With tattoos, that I think it's more nicer to see these kind of things in magazine, that more historical based explanation, and more like talk about art in a more detailed way and scientific way, than just to totally sexualize it, if I can say that word. Well, probably because I say that, probably YouTube gonna give me a probably yellow card for this, because YouTube is very sensitive what you say, so you have to be careful if you want. Like for example, yeah, if now I'm a small YouTuber, I'm not sponsored, so I can say this for King. I don't have, but if you are a sponsored YouTuber, you have to be very careful what you say, because if your YouTube is turned red, then you don't get any money for your YouTube video and this kind of thing. Yeah, and I think I don't recommend any really like. I think there's many good tattoo books you can find on internet to buy. I think that will give you a much richer understanding of tattoos than this kind of magazines. I think it's very good books that really show you beautiful pictures and explain the history behind it, for example, and this kind of thing. One of my favorite tattoo artists is Paul Booth, and Paul Booth is famous with he do a very dark, like horror theme of style of tattooing. But he's very famous for he tattoo a heavy metal artist. He definitely have tattoo Max Cavalera's eyeballs on his arm here, and have tattooed many famous Corey King from Slayer, Max Cavalera, Corey Taylor from Slipknot, and this kind of different artists. He tattooed many people, so he's a very cool artist. He makes very cool tattoo work and this kind of thing. And yeah, and this is every really want to say, but this kind of thing is yeah, okay.